Okay, so today I have something interesting I want to share with you guys. I was watching a little bit of TV last night, and I found a show called Sunday Night. And on that show, they were running a vegan segment. So obviously, I decided to watch. I thought today I'll present the segment they presented to you guys, so you guys can see it for yourselves, because it was quite good. So we'll watch it together. I'll stop it every now and then and just sort of, give a few opinions here or there. For the most part, I'll just let it go, and you guys can watch it, check it out, and see what you think. Okay, so let's get into it.
Next, is this the death of the good old-fashioned Aussie Barbie?
You get the out of my place!
Vegans go to war against meat.
We're forcing social change. This is how it happens. This is how history changes.
And they're determined to convert us all.
I see it as a form of terrorism, to be perfectly honest.
There's an old saying, you are what you eat. But these days, with fad diets, non-gluten this and dairy-free that, you are what you don't eat is probably more accurate. And that is especially true of militant vegans who are on the warpath, trying to dictate what we have for dinner, even what we wear. That makes meat eaters and farmers their natural enemies. Here's Denham Hitchcock.
Mate, if you don't want to eat meat, that's fine. Don't come around my place. Take the camera out of my face.
No, she's allowed to video.
Okay, that's fine. I'll video you guys too.
In a tiny speck of a town in Western Australia, an ugly confrontation.
Because this is ridiculous. Move on, mate. Dude, you get the out of my place.
A dairy farmer catches a vegan activist filming animals on his property.
Got a shotgun? You just shot bullets.
It's a standoff that could well have turned deadly. And here, only this week, a farmer in Queensland.
Get off my country! Go through! This is ridiculous!
No, you're hurting animals here.
Powerless, as close to 150 vegan activists stormed his property.
Okay. This is ridiculous. This isn't good enough. This kind of behaviour shouldn't be tolerated. I mean, if you go onto someone's property, you trespass, you can be charged for that. Here we have 150 people that intimidate an old farmer, that's the idea. I mean, we see them do similar sort of stuff online. They use guilt and fear, or I call it emotional manipulation, to persuade people to see things their way. And obviously they're not above physical intimidation as well, to get people to see things their way. This is disgraceful behaviour, and I don't give a shit who you are, what your belief is. This shouldn't be tolerated. This is ridiculous. Completely ridiculous. Who do these people think they are?
David, this looks familiar. This is where they came through the fence?
This is exactly where they've come through. 2 barbed wire fences. This is an invasion. It was an invasion. Did they have weapons for a start? Are they militant? They're running at me. Have they got a stick in their hand?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they had sticks in their hands, but I can tell you one thing. They definitely have sticks up their arse.
Have they got a gun? I was fearing for my life.
Police were called, but they waited for backup, which left David and his family helpless.
How the hell do you sleep at night?
His young daughter took this video on her mobile phone.
Are you a mother?
How would you feel if we took you from your mother?
They were abused like this for an hour and a half.
See, again, this isn't good enough. This sort of behaviour, especially from people who claim to be compassionate, kind, caring and loving individuals who just care about the world and everything in it. It's a crock of shit. I mean, listen to them. Listen to the anger and the hatred in their voices. I wonder who's in charge of this whole thing, who set this up. Maybe we'll find out later on.
Do you know those mothers cry? You've heard them many times.
Calling us killers, murderers, every name there that they could be calling us, they called us. I was devastated.
And this is not an isolated incident. Around the world, hardline animal rights activists have declared war. And it's not only farms. unsuspecting diners are also under attack.
I see it as a form of terrorism, to be perfectly honest.
A sentient being with a unique personality.
Those activists are trying to stop animals from being butchered against their will. Who's really being terrorised here?
There is an escalating conflict between meat eaters and militant vegans.
Veganism is not a diet. It's a moral principle which extends to diet.
And there are Australians leading the charge on both sides.
When people ask me what I do, I actually just tell them that I'm a professional carnivore.
This handsome fellow, this is a forequarter of a cow. His head would have been up here, but he's got more important and delicious things to become.
Tonight, just how far will these vegans go?
We're forcing social change. This is how it happens. This is how history changes.
Oh God, Joey Carbstrong. I'll tell you what, wherever you see a bunch of angry vegans, Joey Carbstrong isn't far behind. He is incredible, this guy. Unbelievable. He sits there and he talks about they're forcing social change. Social change shouldn't be forced on people. Social change should be an agreed upon decision by the collective, by the majority of society, for the greater good of society. Not because a few crazies have a bogus ideology which they force on people because they don't understand any better and because they're control freaks. You're an idiot, Joey. You're an idiot, man.
In this fiery ideological battle.
Stop this! Hey, buddy!
I know what you're thinking.
Tables and back.
Thank you, mate. A barbecue joint in Texas seems to be an odd place to start a story on vegans. But the thing is, I really need to lay my cards on the table here because I am and have long been a red meat loving carnivore. But it seems people like me are under attack. There's a growing vegan activist movement and they're becoming increasingly hostile. Oh, beef ribs, thank you, mate. And they want us to put this and our steak knives down for good.
Imagine sitting down to a meal at an upmarket steakhouse and being confronted by this. A room full of militant vegans loudly accusing you of murder. The protest in Australia's vegan capital, Melbourne, was staged and organised by the vocal and very motivated Joanne Lee.
I think that what we're doing is important work. It is absolutely important and necessary to challenge head-on what's happening to animals.
People might argue that it might set even more people against you.
Yes, it can be confronting, that style of action, but the reality is it's not about us, not about them. It's about the victims were on the plates and it was about challenging a place where the consumption of animals had been normalised.
What do we want? Animal liberation! When do we want it? Now!
It's acceptable to protest in a public space. This isn't a public space. This is a private property. It's intimidation.
Anthony Selvin is the manager for Rare, the restaurant in the crosshairs.
Our managers asked them to leave.
What do we want?
They then stood outside, held placards against the windows and carried on chanting.
Joanne is defiantly unrepentant. Her cause was suddenly headline news, and for her, that's all that matters.
It may seem extreme, and one could argue that without that kind of dramatic action, the issue goes ignored.
In what version of reality are animals and humans the bloody same? Look around you. Just look around you and tell me we're the same. There are so many things that differentiate us from animals. The level of humanising animals and dehumanising humanity as being no different than animals is ridiculous. It's anti-human. Is it just me, or is this woman completely bloody crazy? Far out.
To a meat-eating outsider, everything about going vegan seems extreme. For instance, these aren't animals in pens, they're enslaved. But there's some other more surprising things. You can't have woolen clothing because wool is from sheep. There's no silk from a silkworm, no honey from a bee. At the heart of it all is a philosophy that humans shouldn't impose their will on any animal, great or small. What you're advocating is that all lives are equal. Humans, animals, all the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to make the world a complicated place.
Animals are sentient, they feel pain, they have their own conscious experience, so they're not a thing, they're not an it, they're a someone, not a something.
Oh, God. That's gold, that is. Animals are not a something, they are a someone. Who are they? Can you introduce me to them? Do they have names? How do we address them? They're someone. Give me a frickin' break. Absolute bloody insanity.
But I reckon it's just down here, the slaughterhouse. It smells like death out the front of here.
And radical veganism goes way beyond a fringe group in Melbourne. The movement is worldwide.
Thank you all for coming. It's Monday morning and it's cold.
It's raining.
Hello everyone, thanks for coming.
The temperature close to zero, but more than 100 protesters are outside the front of a slaughterhouse in England because this man asked them to come.
I feel like when those trucks stop, you gain instant perspective. Boom. It hits you. It's pretty heavy. It's sad, but it's important that we're all here.
He calls himself Joey Carbstrong, an Australian who has become the face and the voice of the extreme vegan movement.
The most important thing you can do is get your phones out and take images of those animals and share them on your social media platforms.
Jesus, Joey, that's bloody wonderful advice. I'm sure that's going to save a lot of animals' lives. That's activism at its finest. I mean, that's really making a difference. Fantastic advice, Joey. Great job.
Poor little puppies, little piglets, and we all have a collective reach. So there's millions and millions of us who all feel the same way. This isn't just my message, this is the message of the whole vegan movement. This is the animals' message. But at the end of the day, if you're paying for flesh, you're paying for bacon, you're paying for this place to exist. The knife and the blood is on your hands.
Some people that we've spoken to term it as almost a form of terrorism.
Interesting, that word terrorism.
Yeah.
The word terrorism implies someone's being terrorised. And those activists are trying to stop animals from being literally butchered against their will.
Interesting, Joey. Terrorising means terrorising somebody, does it? You mean similar to the way you and 150 of your followers terrorised that old farmer? Is that terrorising? Or similar to the way vegans walk into restaurants and demand that everyone put down their steaks and listen to what they're doing and the rest of the bullshit? Is that terrorism in your opinion? According to your definition it was, but apparently it's okay if you're doing it to stop the butchering of innocent animals who don't want to die, as you say. Well, in nature, Joey, nothing wants to bloody die, okay? Nothing wants to die in nature, but unfortunately, for vegans, death is a part of nature. You wouldn't be alive, I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for the death of other living beings. It's just the way it goes, whether you're a vegan or you're not a vegan. It doesn't matter. Death comes from life and life comes from death. It's a circle. Jesus, man. Ignorance.
Okay, so who's the real terrorist here? Who's really being terrorised here?
When it crosses into the realms of breaking into properties, committing crimes, things that are against the law, I think that's where most people have a big problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people have a problem with it because they have a problem with who you're defending. But if they were human beings in those farms being tortured and abused, they would have no problem with someone trespassing and taking footage and bringing it out.
How do you get around the problem of people looking at you and just thinking, here's just another whiny vegan trying to ram something down our throats?
The truth is the truth. It cuts through everything.
But like most vegans, Joey wasn't always this way. His transformation followed a stint in prison. You have a long criminal history.
Yeah. Yep.
We're talking about 3 assaults.
Yeah.
House arrest.
Yep.
6 months in prison.
Yeah.
A lot of drug use.
Yeah, definitely.
Can people trust a man with a criminal history like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to live in a world where someone can't do wrong and then redeem themselves for it. I mean, I'm genuine in my heart. I mean, I've got nothing to hide now.
Joey was serving time for assault when he turned vegan for health reasons, to lose weight. At the same time, he got sober. He stopped taking drugs.
Vegans go nuts.
And reinvented himself as a vegan activist.
Nothing less than a vegan world. Anything less is betraying the animals.
Since then, he has become the unofficial attack dog.
I don't know whether you're angry today or just generally about the whole thing.
Well, I'm a bit upset to see your sandwich has a piece of a pig's body in there. A dead pig that didn't want to die.
I just want to read a couple of your posts. I just want to ask you about them.
Yeah.
Hitler is still alive and he lives in the hearts and mind of every animal-abusing, rapist, slave-owning dairy farmer.
Yeah.
Australian dairy farmers should do the cows a favour, kill yourselves, and unethical hunters deserve a bullet in the head. I hope one of these bastards accidentally shoot one of their family members in the face.
Yeah. Yep. When I first started advocating fresh out of gangs, and I was angry what was happening to animals, okay? So angry. And I was just speaking, you know, from a place of anger and aggression.
Do you still feel this way? Because this is extreme.
100% do not stand by those statements anymore.
Now, do you really feel that way, Joey? Because something tells me you're just saying that because you know you look like a dickhead now on national TV. Now, we just saw you, Joey, lead 150 people into a farm to intimidate and then angrily abuse the farmer. We've also heard you encouraging your followers to stay angry for the animals.
We don't want to normalise what happens in there. We want to continuously feel the frustration and anger, the frustration and anger, the frustration and anger.
So I ask you, Joey, if you're not angry anymore, how come you promote anger and how come you're so aggressive with the things you do? Doesn't make any sense. I think you're full of shit, personally.
But the carnivores of the world are fired up as well. Firmly in the red meat corner is another Australian, Jess Pryles. And boy, is she upsetting the vegans. Here in Austin, Texas, Jess is known as the hardcore carnivore.
Here to give us some really useful grilling knowledge is Jess Pryles, a hardcore carnivore.
She's a celebrity chef with a line of meaty merchandise, from cookbooks and clothing to her own signature barbecue.
Well, welcome to the pit room. This is some serious Texas barbecue here. So inside, these are what we call plate ribs. So pretty much just ginormous dinosaur ribs. But I'd love for you to try it. You should be able to just get in there and rip a hunk off. That's how well cooked it is.
Whoa.
I'm gonna join you. I'm not standing here watching you eat barbecue without me.
I wouldn't expect you to. You should be a gentleman. Let me hold this for you. Should we feel guilty about eating animals?
No. I think there's a responsibility to make sure that the meat that we're eating is being harvested humanely. I don't think that there's any guilt associated if we're responsible with our practices.
This is probably the strongest argument. If you can get all the protein and sustenance we need from a vegan diet, wouldn't it be better that an animal doesn't have to suffer or die to sustain us?
I think that would be great, except that we can't. You can't. So animal proteins are the only natural source of B12. A core vegan diet needs so much either extra intake or added nutrients to actually be balanced. Eating meat is part of a balanced diet. Every nutritionist in the world will tell you that.
Coming up.
So this is breakfast.
This is breakfast.
A warrior against the vegans.
No fruits.
No.
No vegetables, nuts, bread, rice, pasta.
Meat only.
As meat eaters bite back.
All of our evolution has turned us into the ultimate apex predator. Any questions?
Sean, let's tick these off the list. No fruits.
No.
No vegetables.
Nope.
No nuts.
Nope.
No bread?
Nope.
No rice?
No.
No pasta?
No.
Only meat?
Meat only. Shopping takes all of 5 minutes. I'll walk past the fruits and vegetables, and then I'll go down an aisle full of potato chips and crisps and cookies and head right by there and make a beeline for the meat counter and talk to the butcher. Nice, this is what I've been looking for. The only decision is what's the price and how many do I want.
Sean Baker is a surgeon from California.
Can I get the bone in, about 5 of those, and then about 5 of the boneless ribeyes?
Yes. 6'5", 52 years old.
And actually, one more. Yeah, that one's fine.
Sean, what would you call this diet that you're on?
Well, I mean, most people call it a carnivore diet. Basically, it's a diet where meat is kind of the focus.
How long have you been doing this?
27 months.
Okay, so more than 2 years, meat only.
Yep.
And mostly red meat.
Mostly red meat.
So this is breakfast?
This is breakfast. I usually eat about twice a day. And for me, I usually eat about close to 2 kilos a day, something like that. Yeah.
So this would be 1 kilo?
It's about a kilo.
You feel the need for any other meal during the day?
No, this is a lot of food, you know. Despite the fact that we're told that red meat can increase our risk for cardiac disease or causes us to be obese or causes us to have diabetes or causes us to be inflamed, when you actually test that, none of that stuff happens. In fact, the opposite happens.
And Sean is living proof. While his blood test shows slightly raised cholesterol levels, otherwise, he's in great shape. Even the scans on his arteries, all clear.
80 kilos.
This kettlebell is 80 kilograms. This is a 200 kilo deadlift.
Objectively and subjectively, it's the best I've ever felt, the best my health has ever been, best my athletic performance has ever been. I mean, I'm 52 now, and I'm doing stuff that I, was struggling to do in my 40s.
Sean also holds the current world indoor rowing world record.
Any questions? We have a shoulder designed for throwing. Our shoulder didn't evolve to throw things because we were throwing rocks at fruit. I mean, that's not why that happened. We were clearly using that implement technology to take down animals. And so all of our evolution has turned us into the ultimate apex predator, and that's just who we are.
Haven't we evolved this way? Humans have evolved to eat meat, to digest dairy. Isn't this just evolution?
It doesn't make it moral if we've evolved to do something that's inherently cruel.
This is an issue where there is no middle ground. Customers or killers.
Stop this. Hey, buddy.
Protesters or terrorists. Animal products or victims.
The thing about social change is it's not comfortable. And the fact is that it's destroying, literally going to obliterate the environment. And it's inherently cruel and abusive. So it's something that we need to change.
But is this the way to do it?
This is ridiculous! No, you're hurting animals here.
How the hell do you sleep at night?
On the cattle property overrun by protesters in Queensland. They were so brazen, they never bothered to cover their faces. They boasted.
Have a look at these clowns, eh? Thinking they're a bunch of gang members posing and shit. Unreal. I think Joey loves this side of it. I think he lives for this sort of stuff. We all know that Joey comes from a antisocial criminal sort of past. And apparently, if you ask Joey, he'll tell you that he's a changed man. He's not violent anymore. Doesn't do not into criminal activity, not into breaking laws. He's not antisocial. But I mean, look at this here. I mean, he's clearly promoting antisocial behaviour. He's promoting violence, according to that message that the announcer read out before. He's still breaking laws, and he's promoting these things to other people. So I mean, this isn't a changed man. This is completely ridiculous.
About it using their real names. But despite this mountain of evidence, police are not laying any charges.
We're proud of what we do. We're a family-owned business, and we shouldn't have to cop this.
Someone's going to get hurt. Something terrible could happen. And I don't want that to happen.
And the vegan ranks are growing. 3/4 of new recruits in Australia are young women aged 20 to 40. But I have to admit, I'd still find it hard to say no to good old barbecued steak.
Okay, so that's it. I think for me it was quite good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite entertaining, especially some parts. My only concern though is this.
I am and have long been a red meat loving carnivore. But it seems people like me are under attack.
Is this the death of the good old-fashioned Aussie Barbie?
You get the out of my place.
And they want us to put this and our steak knives down for good.
And they're determined to convert us all.
There is an escalating conflict between meat eaters and militant vegans.
That makes meat eaters and farmers their natural enemies.
Around the world, hardline animal rights activists have declared war.
Militant vegans who are on the warpath, trying to dictate what we have for dinner, even what we wear. Vegans go to war against meat.
Now, I don't know if it was just me, but I seem to be getting a vibe that they were actually promoting a meat-based diet. I'm very surprised by this because generally in these sort of mainstream kind of shows, they are promoting a vegan diet these days. I think the reason they're doing this is because we know that veganism is an ideology. We know it's basically a religion. And it's extremist. But the thing is, if we're going to use that logic, we have to use the same logic on the other side of the spectrum, okay, and remain consistent. So therefore, if you're eating a meat-based diet, that's also extremist and could be considered religious type ideology, okay? I think that's what they're trying to do with this video, was create a situation where you have to choose one or the other. It's divide and conquer strategy. They want you on one side of the fence or the other side of the fence, because if you don't win, if you're not part of the fight, you're going to lose your meat, you're going to lose the barbecue. And the whole reason they used the barbecue in the first place was to appeal to Australians, because they know the barbecue is part of Australian culture. It's part of what makes an Australian an Australian. Well, that's what it's considered to be anyway. So they know if they use the barbecue as leverage, then people are going to be more inclined to jump on board because their way of life is being threatened by this vegan movement. It's just it's a tactic to get people to subscribe to what they're trying to sell, which is the opposite religion of what veganism is. They did their best to shit all over veganism, quite frankly. I mean, they didn't really directly shit on veganism, but they definitely let Joey Carbstrong and the other crazy lady dig their own holes. I mean, they looked absolutely ridiculous. And then they get a doctor in on the meat side who's in great shape, working out, and presenting the meat-based diet in a way that was so much more attractive than what the vegans were doing with their outrageous, militant-style, aggressive, angry approach. So it's clearly obvious to me what they're trying to do. I think we need to be careful for this. I think people need to remember that we should all be on the same team here, and we shouldn't be fighting vegans. We should be fighting veganism. And I think there's a difference there that people need to understand, because the more we fight each other, the more we go back and forth, we don't get anywhere, nothing happens, it just goes back and forth fighting. I think that's the goal of this. I don't think that for a second they're trying to promote a meat-based diet out of the goodness of their heart. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm not too sure. I mean, the video was a good video. It was an informative video. It was quite an interesting video. It was, as a meat eater, it was a great video to watch. As a vegan, not so much. I got on and had a look at the Channel 7 forum, and the vegans weren't happy, eh? They were not happy at all. So anyway, we'll leave it there. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.